The lords who have retired from the bench of the Plateau State.
The Legal Week is an event that ushers in a new legal year, affording members of the judiciary to take stock of achievements and pitfalls recorded in the preceding year and chart a way forward for the succeeding legal year. Declaring the state legal year open, Governor Gov Mutfwang appreciated members of the state judiciary for a smooth working relationship with the executive and applauded them for not being subject to ridiculous discussions in the public space.
Let me appreciate you for the collaboration between the executive judiciary, which is not in any way to stifle the rights of individuals and citizens. I want you to know that the state also has a duty, the executive has a duty to ensure that our commonwealth is well guarded, is well protected, and that the process of development is not hampered by those who use the machinery of justice to steal or to stifle the common resources that are at our disposal. I must confess that I'm not aware of many bad stories about the Plateau judiciary. Indeed, as we listen to the rebuttals from the porch, from the learned silk, I want to commend the Plateau judiciary for not allowing itself to become the subject of public discourse and public opprobrium. I hope that in this coming year, we will recommit ourselves to ensuring that the justice sector in Plateau State is second to none in Nigeria. Since coming on board, as a member of the bar myself, I have decided that we must do all we can to improve the conditions of the judiciary as well as the entire justice sector. I therefore want to salute the commencement of this legal year and pray that we're going to approach this new legal year with renewed vigor, with renewed commitment. We'll continue to do our best to make sure that the health of our judges is properly safeguarded. Whenever they have need for medical attention, we'll do all we can to ensure that our judges have a sound mind and a sound body in order to dispense justice appropriately. Therefore, we urge you to approach this year with a determination to do better than you did last year. And all we can say, may God help you. Thank you and God bless.
Highlighting some of the giant strides and challenges of his administration, Mutfwang said government has concluded plans to recruit over 1,400 personnel into the Operation Rainbow to bolster security around the state. Chief Judge of Plateau State, David Mann, while reviewing the judiciary in the preceding year, asked for the appointment of more superior judges in the 2025-2026 legal year and solicited for a police outpost within the premises of the court.
The legal year is a cherished tradition observed by all common law jurisdictions worldwide. It is a ceremony that seeks for divine blessing and guidance in all judicial matters, to help judges and lawyers make fair decisions throughout the year. And in response to the rising number of matters presented for adjudication before it, a magnificent, all-encompassing state-of-the-art conference hall is presently under construction. Upon completion, this edifice will not only enhance service efficiency, but will also provide a conducive work for staff and a welcoming atmosphere for the citizenry, advancing the cause of and friendly justice for all. Family Court. The Family Court is also being housed in the old High Court complex, duly renovated and equipped with child-friendly facilities. Renovation of other court buildings. In addition to the development strides earlier mentioned, are still ongoing in several courts across some local government areas in the state, beyond those already completed and put to use. These include the High Court gates, Gate House, area courts located Kwande, Ganauri, Jarmai, the new store building within these premises, the area courts zonal inspectorate office, Boy Road, Mangu, and the chief magistrate and upper area court, Mangu, among others. Furthermore, solar lights have been installed in all High Court buildings, judges' residences, as well as upper area courts and magistrates' courts located in Shandam, Lantang, Panshing, Mangu, Barkin Ladi local government areas, and in Bukuru, just south local government area.
Plateau State Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice Philemon Daffy recounted some landmark achievements of the state judiciary under the Mutfwang administration, noting that as Attorney General of the state, he hopes to rededicate his commitment towards strengthening the state legal system to align with best practices.
Our focus was on the following areas among several others: the provision of legal aid for our teeming citizenry, criminal prosecution in all ramifications. We didn't stop at that. We went on to civil litigation, law reforms, and capacity development in legal and legislative drafting, whilst not forgetting the very essential component of the welfare, incentivization, motivation of our very esteemed and hard-working lawyers and paralegal staff. On the matter of legal aid, through the Plateau State Office of the Public Defender, we provided legal representation to no fewer than 669 indigent citizens of Plateau State. Of these cases, 493 were successfully released on bail, providing them an opportunity to continue their lives while awaiting trial and alleviating some of the burden on correctional facilities. Now, 168 detainees were formally charged to court during that year, ensuring that those suspected of crimes face judicial process and accountability. A total number of 133 cases of gender-based violence were reported, highlighting the importance of the police duty solicitor scheme, which we established through the Office of the Public Defender to address this critical issue and providing support to victims while ensuring that citizens without means are not left at the mercy of their circumstances. On criminal prosecution, the Ministry of Justice handled over 319 case files within the period under review. These range from capital offenses to sexual and gender-based violence cases and other emerging threats to public order, while child trafficking, etc. were also included. In criminal judgment has been delivered in 3 of those cases within the year, while 11 are slated for judgment in various courts across the state, with 4 on appeal. while the others are still pending at different stages of hearing. In the area of civil litigation, the Ministry of Justice represented the state in 863 cases, matters before various courts and tribunals in the state. These range from land matters to contractual disagreements to probate matters through labor and employment matters as well as chieftaincy cases. We also filed 24 cases against individuals and corporate organizations on behalf of the state government, successfully defending the state against multiple high-value claims and recovering public funds wrongfully diverted, thereby preserving scarce public resources for development.
Speaking on behalf of the 4-branch chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association in the state, chairman of the NBA Jos branch, Leah Dagun, tasked all legal professionals to uphold constitutionalism and eschew technicalities in dispensing justice to the people who see the judiciary as the last bastion of the common man. A legal luminary and senior advocate of Nigeria, Pius Akubo, traced the genealogy of the legal week, linking it to church tradition, and warned legal practitioners to shun attitudes that pervert justice and practice with integrity. In a sharp and piercing speech, Akubo challenged the bar and the bench, otherwise lawyers and judges, officers in the temple of the law, to work together for the common good of the justice system.
It is worthy of note that every member of the bar and the bench is first of all a lawyer. Plus, there is a common bond that binds both the bar and the bench. Commenting on the relationship between the bar and the bench, Compton J in R against O'Connell had this to say: "This court in which we sit is a temple of justice, and the advocates at the bar as well as the judge are equally ministers in that temple. The object of all equally will be attainment of justice." End of quote. By implication, lawyers and judges are ministers in the temple of justice. A fortiori between the bar and the bench is a symbiotic one. There is therefore the need for synergy between the bar and the bench in order to ensure effective administration of justice. The legal year, for the record, is for all. Plateau State Judiciary consists of 3 arms: the High Court, Customary Court of Appeal, and the Sharia Court of Appeal. We are all stakeholders. For what we have observed today in terms of protocol and arrangement, we will need to improve on our legal year. There should be reciprocal respect between the bar and the bench. Notice that bar was not carried along. As you can see, the composition of the committee on page 4 volume. Even the judges of other arms of the Plateau State Judiciary are not. That is not the tradition we inherited. Against this background, it is not just enough to invite members of the inner bar to come and give a goodwill message on this occasion. This is not the first time this has occurred. It has been so for quite a while. We need to correct it, for the simple reason that we are all stakeholders in this ceremony. Going forward, it is suggested that members of the inner bar as well as the bar should be incorporated in the planning, preparation, and execution of the legal year ceremony such as this. That way, the symbiotic relationship between the bar and the bench will be sustained. Review of court rules. We wish to commend the Honorable Chief Judge of Plateau State for setting up Law/Rules Review Committee to review the High Court rules, District Court rules, and Area Court rules in Plateau State in the bid to uncover and address gaping gaps, intrinsic deficiencies, and lacuna in the extant rules. As a matter of fact, a number of provisions in the Area Courts laws and rules are obsolete, are in need of urgent holistic revision. But we observe with concern that the bar was also not carried along in this exercise. It ought not to be so. Legal practitioners are best placed to uncover the lacuna in the rules. And therefore, for informed inputs, they ought to have been made members of that review committee. Even now, it is not too late to make amends. It is hoped that the work of the committee would open a floodgate to informed input by all stakeholders that will eventually give birth to refined rules of court in keeping with best practices in the contemporary world. In this regard, it is suggested that when the committee is done with this onerous assignment, the report should be subjected to peer review by way of functional, dynamic workshop, whereby stakeholders will be called to dissect and further fine-tune the report in order to arrive at ultimate finesse. Bar and bench under scrutiny. As we celebrate the new legal year, all eyes are upon us. The bar and the bench is now under close scrutiny in the court of public opinion. In particular, the judiciary in Nigeria is a subject of discussion and interrogation. Contempt amongst the public against Nigerian judiciary. The bar is not spared either. In fact, what used to be silent whispers against the judiciary have mutated into trumpets of action and scathing criticism. In his searing book, released of late, President Olusegun Obasanjo lashed out at the judiciary by description of the judiciary as courts of corruption rather than courts of justice. In his article, The Bench and Executive Incestuous Relationship, Richard Akinola said, and I quote, "The relationship between the bench and executive in Nigeria has become incestuous and odoriferous act of judicial perfidy. Open flirtation between the judiciary and the executive, lacking in judicial gravitas, exposes the bench to public opprobrium, particularly at this era where there seems to be an accusation of the judex. Supposedly, the judiciary is the last hope of the common man, but that confidence is being daily eroded today by acts of commission and omission by the judex through questionable judgments that stand both law and logic on its head, and also through unholy dalliances between the judex and politically exposed persons." End of quote. In his new book, The Selectorate, When Judges Topple the People, Professor Chidi Anselm Odinkalo gave a catalogue of disturbing scenarios involving both the bar and the bench. In his article, The Lawless Gavel, Nigeria's Descent into Judicial Conquest, Basil Odlim said, and I quote, "There is something far more dangerous than banditry in our forests and kidnapping on our highways. It is a silent, polished crime happening behind the oak-panel courtrooms of Nigeria. It is the smiling face of a judge who has traded his conscience for a brown envelope. It is a silk-wrapped arrogance of a lawyer who now makes his living not from defending the innocent, but from perverting justice. This is the Nigerian's new civil war, a war waged not with guns, but with gavels. Even the politicians, the most notorious cast of society, now tremble before the judiciary, not out of respect, but fear. Fear that one judge's signature can erase elections, destroy legacies, or declare the dead as winners. The judiciary is no longer a separate arm of government in Nigeria. It is a shadow emperor, and like all emperors, it demands loyalty, not to the constitution, but to the cartel. What we are witnessing is not corruption, it is judicial conquest. A conquest where the soul of justice is auctioned to the highest bidder, while the poor, the innocent, and the hopeful are trampled like vermin." End of quote. In an alarming social media message forwarded to me last week, the distrust against the judiciary resonated deeply, and I quote word for word. "An antelope was running like mad. An elephant asked him, 'Antelope, why are you running like that?' She replied, 'The police are arresting all the goats in the village.' The elephant retorted, 'But you are not a goat.' The antelope replied, 'With our current judiciary system, it will take me 20 years to prove that I am not a goat.' And the elephant also started running." End of quote. That is the death of distrust and disillusionment that pervade our country at the moment with respect to the judiciary. The situation is even much worse in election-related cases. Falsification of age in order to elongate service years is a menacing scandal that has rocked the Nigerian judiciary. Granted, there are still God-fearing judges in the judiciary who know what they are doing. Judges that are conscious of their name and integrity, hold themselves accountable to God Almighty. Judges that have given account of themselves in erudition, ethical conduct, moral probity, and accountability. Such judges need to be applauded and celebrated. Basil Odlim confirmed this much when he said, "Let me say this with a burden of fairness. I am sorry I have to say this painful truth, because amid all this decay, there are still a few lawyers and judges, men and women of honor, caught in a rotten system. They can't reform alone. But even their silence is being weaponized against them. Their courage must rise now more than ever because it teaches us that every fallen great civilization collapsed from within once their judicial systems were sold to the dogs." End of quote. Unfortunately, the testimony of such judges is easily overshadowed by the tendency for sweeping generalizations. Thankfully, the Plateau Judiciary has a strong reservoir of judges. Nevertheless, as we celebrate this new legal year, history beckons on us to rise up to the occasion and change the narratives. Let us say to you that none of us here present pervert, aid, and abet injustice. Rather, we got to adhere to the time-honored injunction of dispensing justice without fear of favor, affection, or ill will. In so doing, let us remember that the symbol of justice remains the blind goddess with a sword in her hand and a scale of justice on the other. Arbitration, alternative dispute resolution, is fast gaining momentum globally. Arbitration is an aspect of it. There's a need for a shift of paradigm from the traditional method of litigation that is often long drawn and results in endless animosity between disputing parties. We need to embrace arbitration aggressively in diction. After all, in the Beatitudes, Matthew 5:9, the scripture says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God." Appointment of judges. Presently, there are vacancies in the Plateau State Judiciary on account of retirement of judges. This scenario necessarily increases the workload of serving judges and by extension will negatively impact on expeditious dispensation of justice. We are aware that moves are afoot to appoint new judges to fill existing vacancies. It is deeply concerning, though, that the process is taking longer than expected. We advise on the need to accelerate the process and to ensure that appointment of judges will not be based on ethnic or political considerations. Entitlement mentality should be out of it. Only fit and proper persons, tried and tested with correct medulla oblongata, experience, competence, and moral rectitude should be considered for the appointment. Consideration on the basis of quota system should be jettisoned. For an ignorant and experienced judge is a calamity of the bench. Honorable Justice Ogwimi JSC said this, and I quote, "An ignorant judge is a calamity for the innocent." For the nation. As we celebrate this new legal year, that is, it's necessary to make the point that lawyers and judges alike require secure and enabling environment to function effectively. Section 14, subsection 2B of the Constitution says, and I quote, "The security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government." Lamentably, insecurity in the land is gross and palpable. Terrorists and bandits hold sway, dislodging people from their farmlands and ancestral homes. Likewise, kidnapping for ransom has become the most flourishing industry in Nigeria today. The evildoers involved in these nefarious activities are now so daring that they extend the frontiers of their infamy into the cities. We urge the government to redouble its effort on security and thereby secure our homeland. In this regard, The issue of state police should be quickly actualized. Similarly, the bill seeking to create and legitimize forest guards to man our forests and ungoverned spaces should be assented to without delay, so as to provide support to regular security outfits that are presently overwhelmed.
The opening of the State Legal Week was attended by many personalities. From the State High Court in Jos, this is Timothy Tieng.
Thank you very much.